meaningful for me. So our kiddos could learn by memorizing the hundreds chart right here, but if they don't have a strong grasp over that 1 and 100 are different quantities, that they're different size, if they don't understand the true meaning of what it means, then it's not going to stick, and it's not going to be a meaningful learning experience. And so what we do with NUMICON is we're trying to take that abstract out of it and make it a lot more real for our learners. As you can see here in this graphic, they're applying NUMICON to lots of environments. That's the cool thing about this, is that it doesn't have to be sitting at a table with a worksheet and you know, your NUMICON tiles, and then you're just working and trying to get that work done. This is a great approach that you can take with you across environments so that you can apply learning in lots of different situations, which is going to help our kiddos generalize their understanding and their skills. So I just want to go through a little bit about the origin of NUMICON and the theory. It was originated in the UK. It was actually created after observing that gifted students in a classroom setting who are gifted in reading and writing were still struggling with math because it's just pretty abstract. It takes a while to grasp. And so they were learning, even their most gifted learners were struggling with some basic math concepts. And so this was created to really help combine to provide kiddos with a multi-sensory experience to really make that learning real. And so it fosters self-belief to the students. They can persist through difficulties. They can see where their hangups are when they're using NUMICON. They can problem solve for themselves. So what we're doing with NUMICON is we're taking action, meaning we're bringing it in different environments. We're getting our hands on it. We're going to talk a little bit more about what we can do with it. But we're hands-on, we can see it. It's a really attractive, colorful set. Each number that's represented is a different color. And so for our strong visual learners, like kiddos with Down syndrome, this is a really eye-catching and engaging visual set to work with. It's also fixed, so it works really well with our learners who have fine motor difficulty because we're not working with just a sea of ones and manipulatives that might fall down because we've got that fine motor demand in addition to trying to get our kiddos to count. So that the fixed tiles really works for our learners who often have those fine motor struggles. And then it engages us in conversation. We're talking about what we're doing. We're looking around and attaching it to real life to help motivate our kiddos. And so by combining those things, we're really giving our learners a meaningful experience with math. It's very multisensory, and it really releases the potential for our learners to enjoy what they're doing instead of making it work. So how does it work? Well, it's great because it's just like the 10-frame approach. All of your teachers, the teachers at school, base their math instruction off of the 10-frame. And so it's the same. As you can see with our NUMICON set, we have 1 through 10. And each tile represents a different number, and it's all based on that 10-frame approach. So the good thing about NUMICON is it's not a curriculum. It's just an approach. It's a manipulative. So if it's something that you would be interested in having your kiddo work with at school, it's important to let the teachers know that this is not a curriculum. It's simply just another manipulative that really works well for our kiddos' learning profile. And that it's not curriculum based at all. It's 10-frame based, so it coincides with what teachers are working on with their students. Also, this is an evidence-based approach. There is a lot of great evidence that supports great gains in understanding math concepts for learners who have Down syndrome. And not just learners who have Down syndrome, it's great for everyone, but some specific studies were done for students with Down syndrome, and they made significant gains when they had access to work with NUMICON on a consistent basis. So when it comes to NUMICON, it's pretty simple. It's not rocket science. It's actually quite a simple system to learn, but it's about understanding the foundations of it and really being able to create a solid foundation for your learners. So your kiddo may already know and recognize numbers. Your kiddo may already know how to do some simple problem solving and work number sentences. All of our kiddos are starting at a different a different starting place. So I don't know, we all have different present levels, but no matter what they are, it's very important to start NUMICON from the beginning. You don't want to just jump into, stage 7 of NUMICON. It's important to establish a very solid foundation. And with our learners, consistency and repetition are super important. And so we just want to take it in small steps. There's not a timeline here. Your kiddo's not expected to achieve a particular stage or a step at a certain time. All of our learners learn differently, just as we all do. And so it's important to go slow and take those small steps and make sure that your kiddo has a firm grasp on the concepts that we're teaching. And because that's going to obviously support more skills as they continue to learn more and more about math. There are 8 broad stages. There's not a timeline. Like I said, we all learn at a different pace. And so it's important to be mindful of that, not rush it, not push it or force it. And a big thing, and we're going to be talking a lot about this in some upcoming empowerment tutorials about effective teaching strategies and ways to engage and motivate our kiddos. And one thing I always say is that we want to make it like a game. We want to make it fun. We want our kiddos to enjoy what they're doing. The minute they hear the W word, work, is the minute that you're going to probably get some pushback. You might have some power struggles. And so one big piece of this is to have fun. NUMICON doesn't have to feel like work. There are some advanced concepts that I'm not going to get into today because we really just want to create that solid understanding for a foundation. But NUMICON supports lots of advanced concepts. You can work on fractions and percentages, etc. And those are things that we could get into on one-on-one. So those are some subjects that we could talk about. So if you do have a student that is working on more advanced concepts, maybe an older kiddo who's working on those concepts in school, those are some things that we can talk about, and I'd be more than happy to share more information about those advanced concepts in a kind of one-on-one environment. So let's take a look. So step 1, it's just having fun. So what we want to do is we don't want our kiddos to think that this is a new piece of work for them, right? We want to introduce the NUMICON shapes and the tiles. It says, recommend as early as 18 months, but there's no age limit. So we just want to introduce these shapes to our kiddos and let them have fun with it. Sometimes, depending on how old they are and where they are with their understanding and grasp of math concepts, number recognition, etc., you may not even use the number names yet. You may just use them. You can put them in the bathtub. You can put them in the sandbox. You can put them in a sensory bin with water beads. You can. I do all kinds of things. I had a student who just called, she loves pink and purple. So she just wanted to play with the pink and purple tiles. And so I just kind of gently introduced as she had purple, and she's like, oh, hello, I have purple. I'm a purple princess. And I'm like, oh, purple 9 and pink 7. Oh, hello, purple 9. Hello, pink 7. We're just playing. We're having fun and engaging in ways that motivate our kiddos. And so in the beginning, you just want to have a good time. Now, I always keep a number line out. And in our NUMICON kits, they come with some basic material, such as the NUMICON tiles, 1 through 10. I believe there are several of each number. Number line, as you can see here, goes to 21. Also, every NUMICON kit comes with a board that you can fit the NUMICON tiles on. So now we have pink 7 and purple 9. And so the tiles fit on here, and this is actually 100 frame. So this is 100. So you can fill the board and it will to make 100. And you can also work on counting by 10s or 5s, etc., to fill the board to 100. So that comes as well as some overlays, and we'll get a little bit more into that, and a feely bag, which I actually don't have the specific feely bag, but it comes with a feely bag where you can put numbers inside, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. And then we have a really nifty resource here. If you guys can see this, and this is teaching number skills to children with Down syndrome using the NUMICON Foundation Kit. So this is really awesome. We got these printed up for us. They don't come with kits if you purchase them independently, but we can always work on getting that information to you as well. If you did get a loaner kit from us, that book is included in there as well. So there are just some really basic materials that you need to get started. Primarily having the tiles and having the 100 board, those and a number line, those are the things that you really, really need. And you can create a number line on your own. You don't have to have one from a kit. You can create, oh, it looks like we've got quite a few more there, Nancy. You can have your own feely bag. I just am using something that I have here. So those things aren't as important. You just want to focus on the number tiles at first. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is it's important that our kiddos understand ordering. And it doesn't have to just look like you're sitting at a table and you're working on, 1 to 10. The cool thing about NUMICON is that you can see 1, grab a 1. That 1 is clearly smaller than 10, right? So our kiddos with their, because they're strong visual learners, they can start to see that the difference in size and shape. And these are all going to reinforce that concept of ordering and sequencing. When you can see and feel that a number is smaller or larger than the other, that really helps reinforce those concepts. But we want to not stop at NUMICON, right? Our kiddos need an opportunity to generalize their skills and their knowledge. So it's actually a lot of fun to find things that motivate them. So if it's stuffed animals or toys or dolls around the house, you can line them up. Start with 3 and see if you can find the smallest and line them up to the biggest. This is a great way to help reinforce those concepts of ordering and sequencing. This is a really a big piece. It's an important concept to grasp because we want our kids to have that holistic understanding about the size of these numbers and what that means, that 10 is more, in fact, than 1. So again, always reinforce with a number line. You want to be able to name a number, point to it. The kiddos can put the number on top of the shape that's on their number line. And again, we're working on ways to just reinforce. It's constant reinforcement. And this is something you can do, again, around the house. You don't have to be sitting at a table. You can find things in the bedroom while you're playing with your kiddo and talk about little, what's next, the bigger and biggest. You can count them. You can bring your number line in with you or bring some shapes or some tiles that you'll use and have them put them in order there. So it's just finding different ways to be able to incorporate that concept. So now that our kiddos are kind of understanding, right, that 1 is small, it's 1, and that 4 is more and bigger than 1, and 10 is bigger and more than 4. Now we can start really working on assigning those number names to those shapes so they can really understand that the quantity, right, that 1 is only 1 pom-pom, but 5, and I have this here is 5 pom-poms, or we can push, I put this in Play-Doh, and we can push the buttons, push them back in. So now we can feel 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We can feel that that's more than 1. Just another way to reinforce the concepts. As you can see here, this is a really cool idea. It looks like in a classroom setting, they actually glued the NUMICON tiles onto a board and then labeled them underneath. Great way to reinforce. You can put paint daubers in there. You can put googly eyes in there. You can lace it. Lots of different ways to just keep reinforcing that concept of sequencing and order. So now that we're working to order those shapes and those numbers together, this is a huge step. Having our kiddos be able to look at 1 through 10 and sequence it, and then also assign those NUMICON tiles to the numeral. That's a very big step. It might take some time. You may want to work in small steps. Just work on sequencing 1 through 3, then work on sequencing 1 through 5, and build from there. Your kiddo, you'll be able to see how it's working for your kiddo and where you're going to need to stop and maybe revisit. And again, small steps, so you can just master each piece. And once they're showing you that they've mastered that, they understand 1 through 10 using the NUMICON tiles, and they can label them 1 through 10 independently, then that's great. You've really mastered a big step. So now we're connecting, counting and ordering, which is a really big piece. Okay, so now that our kiddos have, they're recognizing the NUMICON shapes, right? They understand the number names that go to that. They're starting to gain an understanding about what that means. Like 1 is just 1, that 10 is 10 times that, you know. They're really starting to develop these, the numbers in their mind's eye. They can understand what that shape feels like, what it looks like, the holes that are inside of it. If it's even or odd, you'll see here it says how many even or odd on this graphic. All of the even pieces are going to have all smooth edges, and our odd pieces have one that sticks out. So it's a great way to reinforce that concept of even and odd. So at this point, you can really work on some fun activities like having your kiddo reach into the feely bag and name a number. Ask them if they can find 3, and they can reach in and start small, maybe only have 1, 2, and 3 inside, and see if they can find 3. And at that point, they can reach in, and you know that if they found 5, you know, that's too many, but you can see that they're feeling for that little knob, the one that's the odd one that sticks out. So you can understand that, okay, they're trying, they're getting there, they're grasping that concept. And then, you know, here's 3. You can feel it, you can see it, and being able to have that in your mind's eye, it's going, you know, at a certain point, they're not going to rely on actual NUMICON shapes, right? And so being able to visualize that and understand that number is going to help them transition into just being able to work with numbers, because they're visualizing those shapes and they don't have to rely on the physical shapes. So having that clear mental picture of the numbers that they can use is really important. So, so now what we're doing, so our kiddos really have a great visualization of numbers. They can see and understand that quantity. They know the ordering. They know the sequencing. They can attach the numeral to the actual NUMICON tile. So now we can really start having some fun with problem solving and actually applying math concepts to our NUMICON and start working on number sentences, etc. So what we can do is start combining 2 shapes to create to equal a specific shape. So here you see in our example, we've got 10, and on top of it is a 7 and a 3. And this is a lot of fun. This is a great way to test our kiddos' like understanding. I love playing this game, different ways to make 10. And you might want to start by just having a 10 out, and you choose the first number. So I choose 6. And then your kiddo is going to choose the next number. And depending on if that kiddo has grasped all of the concepts we've been building and working on, then you'll know, right? So the really cool thing about NUMICON is you can see what your learner is thinking. So if I have 10 and I put a 6 here and I ask my student, how many more do I need to make 10? And my kiddo grabs a 3, we can clearly see that that's a concept that we need to revisit. That visualization of numbers and that understanding of those numbers in the mind's eye hasn't quite been mastered yet. And guess what? That's fine. You can go right back to those other activities to try to continue establishing and building that foundation and that understanding. And so that's a wonderful way to really grasp whether your learner is ready to move forward with the next concept and the next stage. So let's take a look at some addition. So it's great to start with adding one more because we're really focusing on that number line. And as you guys know, some IEP goals, right, are we have, I see a lot of students, especially my younger kiddos, and they've got the IEP goal of starting at a number that's not 1, right, and then adding on to it. Adding one more. So reinforcing with a number line where you can start, and you can see here on the image that we start with 4 and we add 1. Sorry, I'm not on 4 here, but 4. You add 1 more, you get 5. 5. You add 1 more, you get 6. And you can match it up to the numbers that you have on your number line to just reinforce that concept. And of course, you're always welcome to use manipulatives to help check the work, right? Also, don't be afraid to get a big calculator with large font numbers. Our kiddos really like, pushing those buttons. It's a great way to reinforce. They can look at the number on the calculator. They can see the number on the number sentence they're working on. They can use the NUMICON tiles, and they can use a number line. And you can grab items of interest like cars, Legos, goldfish. That's a really popular one. And you can start establishing that foundation of understanding that when I add 1 more, I'm just jumping 1 more on that number line. So we're really building that understanding and of that concept by adding 1 more. Then we can start combining doubles, which is really cool because our learners can clearly see 1 plus 1 is the same as 2. They can check it. They see that it matches. 1 plus 1 is the same as 2. The other thing I really like is that your fingers work really well when you're trying to, it's just another way to reinforce. So I've got 2 here, and I've got 3 here. So that's another great way to reinforce those concepts. But when we combine 2 and 2, we can clearly see the 4 shape. And so that is really enforcing doubling up on numbers and adding our numbers, doubling them up, which is really cool. And again, if we've got our 4 and we want to know what else makes 4 and our kiddo grabs a 1, then we know we've got to go back and work on building more of those concepts and that understanding and that visualization. All right, let's see. Okay, so subtraction. Oh, you know what? I wanted to go back. I'm sorry, I'm going to go back to one more here. So with adding, I just want to touch on that. I think that it's pretty self-explanatory. So if you're adding a couple of numbers, let's say we've got 7 plus 3 here. So your student takes 7. Whoops, where's my 7? So your student can take a 7 tile, take a 3 tile. I always have them put it together like a puzzle if they've got the odd shapes. Now we've made a new shape with it. And at this point, your kiddo may just be able to visualize the number because they're seeing, they've memorized what a 10 looks like. And that's okay, because we're just reinforcing that. That means that that kiddo understands and has that quantity in his mind's eye. But you can use paint daubers. You can use, I have a kiddo where, again, you saw me with the Play-Doh. I have a kiddo that loves putting his NUMICON shapes on Play-Doh, and then he sticks crayons in each one. So we're reinforcing that one-to-one correspondence. He's feeling the crayon go into that putty, so we're getting a little bit of that sensory feedback as well, which is nice. And you can check your work by matching up the NUMICON tile. Oh, we've made 10. Cool. And then I always give my kiddos a choice. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that, about reducing demands. But I want you guys to keep in mind, if you are working on things like number sentences, it's not a requirement to make your kiddo write the answers or write the numbers on there. We want to reduce cognitive demands, and a lot of times a choice works really well. I ask my student Will if he wants to write it or stick it. A lot of times he says stick it. And so then we just check our work. And you can reinforce that by using a calculator to check it. Again, lining up and counting items of interest from real life, having a conversation about it. Those are the things that are going to make it meaningful and engaging for our kiddos. Let's see. So when we go beyond 10, it's really neat because I talked about using that 10 frame and that everything is based on the 10 frame. So when we start to add numbers that are larger, that equal a larger than 10 amount, then we challenge our kiddos to find 10 and then add on as many as they need to. I'm going to show you a quick video. This is my friend Alexander. He's completely nonverbal, but is a NUMICON star. And he's been working on NUMICON, with NUMICON for a while now. And we're really able to see, even though he has a difficult time communicating his knowledge, because NUMICON is such a wonderful visual representation of math, we're able to really see what he understands and knows, which is pretty cool. So I'm going to try here, bear with me, to see if we can get Alexander up here. Hold on just a second. Okay, and this is Alexander adding 9 plus 6. So he's already taken the tiles out, and now he's put them together lengthwise to stretch them out so that he can visually see that that's more than 10. And so he's got to figure out how to figure out what that equals. Now he's grabbed the 10 frame, and then he can clearly see there's 5 left over. Nice work. There we go. So now he just added. There we go. He just was able to add up 9 plus 6 just like that to make 15. So that's just another example of using the NUMICON tiles to add. So let's get into subtraction. Subtraction is going to take a little bit longer. First of all, you can't just take off a piece of NUMICON tile. Unfortunately, I do lots of things, whether I cover it with Play-Doh or a piece of paper. You can see here in the visual that they cross out one of the pieces to represent taking away. It's a pretty difficult concept, so you got to just get kind of creative with that. This is where I do believe manipulatives are really helpful, especially something that's motivating. So I'm working with a kiddo right now on subtraction. Well, yeah, not right now, but had been working on subtraction. And we use goldfish. It's super motivating for him. We don't use it as a reward. So we're not saying, okay, do the math and then you can have goldfish. We actually call it goldfish game. And he's a shark that's taking away goldfish and eating them. So I give him a number problem. He puts that many goldfish up, and then he takes away and eats them. And that's how we come up with the solution. It's engaging for him. He gets a little snack, and he's learning about subtraction. But one thing I really do like about NUMICON is that comparison, the difference, that's pretty tricky and abstract for our kiddos. Like, compare these two numbers, or what's the difference between, like, for example, 8 and 3. Using NUMICON, you can clearly see that and understand it. And so it's a great way to gain a little bit more knowledge about that. So what's the difference between 8 and 3? Well, our kiddos who've now mastered that visualization, they have a great understanding about what these numbers look like, feel like, then my kiddos can clearly look at that, and they know that the difference between 8 and 3, or 8 minus 3, is 5. And then we can check the work to see. Yep. So if that makes sense. So that's another way to approach it. So again, either covering, eliminating. If you can get really creative and print out numbers and cut one off or cut 2 off, that your kiddo can physically see those pieces coming off if you wanted to do something like that. There are tons and tons and tons of NUMICON like printouts and ideas and resources on things like Pinterest and Teachers Pay Teachers. So don't reinvent the wheel. There's lots of material out there that you guys can use. And again, it's just fun because you can take it across environments and use it in lots of different ways. Let's see. So we're just going to touch on this multiplication and division, but as you can see, it's actually it's quite simple. So if you want 4 times 5, you can see here you're putting 4 5s together, and at that point our kiddos are learning to make those 10 frames, right? They're learning to find 10s with it. So now you can cover those 4 5s with as many 10s as you can fit on there, and that gives our kiddo a clear understanding that that equals 20. So they're able to see 5 4 times on here that equals 20. I just want to take a quick pause for a second to ask Nancy, I see, are there still some folks waiting in the waiting room? I'm not sure if Nancy.
I don't see any people in the waiting room, Elizabeth.
Okay, it just keeps coming up and giving me a little ping.
No, I have a question. Would you like to take a question?
Sure.
Okay. One moment, please.
Ma'am.
Okay. Are we talking about the visualization of the colors and shapes equals the specific number, and that's what helps our kids, versus using different types of manipulatives?
So yeah, that's a great question. So the fixed frame, right, versus using manipulatives is really helpful for our kiddos, because the manipulatives can often look like a sea of ones. A lot of teachers like to use those counting bears, etc. But instead of like being able to grasp a whole number concept, it kind of translates more like just a sea of ones. And again, what we touched on earlier, with our kiddos who do have fine motor challenges, if their requirement is to actually use their fingers to try to line up manipulatives and count them then to grasp the concept of that whole number that they're counting, that can lead to frustration because they might knock one over and they have to start over again. It's a lot harder to grasp seeing those seas of ones and trying to formulate that equals a whole number. Whereas this fixed frame, the color is important at first because I think that it helps our kiddos visually discriminate the different shapes and sizes. But eventually the color is not as important as really visualizing that quantity by the shape of it, by reinforcing, because we've been counting with it, we've been pushing into that Play-Doh, we've been putting daubers, paint into it, or stickers into it. And so because we've used these tiles, these fixed tiles across environments in lots of different ways and explored them in lots of ways and reinforced with those numerals and that number line, that's what's really establishing that visualization of knowing that 1 is this, and it's little, it's small, it's only 1, and that 4 is this, and it feels like this, and it's bigger, it's got 4 in there. So they actually can understand that whole number, if that makes sense. I hope that helps. And if it does not, then please feel free to email me and we can talk a little bit more about that. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. I'm just going to touch on division quickly here. As you can see, for example, it has 20 divided by 3. So you can see there, we've just lined up 2 10s, we've got 20, and you put as many 3s on there as you can. So when you see that you can fit 6 3s on your 20 tiles, then you see that you've got a remainder of 2s there. So it's pretty self-explanatory. I don't know if we want to get into too much with the multiplication and division, but I did want to give you guys just a couple of, some examples and a visual to let you know that we can use NUMICON to work on those more advanced concepts, that, it doesn't just end with some simple addition and simple subtraction. So those are just some examples of that. I just want to be mindful of time here. Okay. So the other thing, counting money and telling time. So this is really big with our kiddos, right? When we're talking about math concepts and what we want our students with Down syndrome to master or to have a good grasp of when they leave school, we want them to be able to tell time. We want them to be able to count their money. We want them to be able to navigate the real world with those life skills. And so these are really, really important. And NUMICON can help with that as well. Now, this is really silly, and I have to remind myself that I did tell you it was developed in the UK. So you may notice that on the left side here with our money, that's actually not American money. So I'm going to have to change that. Sorry. But I did create my own example here. So when we're working on concepts like counting money, I've got here five. We've got 5 pennies. We can pair that with a nickel. You can pair that with the numeral 5, and we can take it a little bit further to take a 5 and another whole 5. So we've got 2 nickels and 2 5s. And with that, we know that we can create 10, and we've got a dime there in the middle of it. And so that's just an example of being able to work on pennies, dimes, nickels, quarters, change. When we're working on counting money, NUMICON's just a great reinforcer, because they, again, can put those on, or you can put them on and tape them on if you want, on the actual physical tile, and that is reinforcing what they've already been working so hard on and to understand. They have an understanding about the value, the meaning, the size, the quantity of this number when using the tile. And so this just helps reinforce those concepts that they had already been working on. And so you can do that, with quarters, 2 10s and a 5. And you can show that with 2 dimes and a nickel, and that equals 25, and that the quarter represents 25. So it's a great way. With telling time, you can see kind of the quantity, right? That 1 is the earlier time, right? 1 p.m. And that it starts and it grows and grows. And as time is moving on and the day is progressing, the numbers get bigger. So that's a great example of, just putting some NUMICON tiles up by your clock, and for kiddos to understand the quantity of hours that have passed, that more and more time is passing, and so our numbers are getting bigger and bigger to represent how much time has passed. So that's a good one. And then here are some great examples of just things you can find online, things you can make. One of my very favorites, I don't know if you can see this down here, the scale. This is awesome. You can purchase these things, anywhere. And they're great for water, sand, science, etc. But with the NUMICON tiles, I can put 9 on one side, and I can put 5 on the other side, and 9 is going to be more than 5. It's going to weigh more. It's going to show our kiddos and reinforce that 9 is greater, that it's more than. And so that's just another fun way to reinforce concepts like greater than and less than, and having that visual reinforcement. Because again, our kiddos are very strong visual learners. That's a big skill that they have. And it's important that we recognize that, and that we're utilizing their strengths to help them learn and to make the learning more meaningful. I hope that makes sense. You can see lots of fun at Down Syndrome Connection. We actually purchased some of the foam tiles that you see there in the middle graphic. Those things are awesome for our kiddos who love gross motor play. You don't have to just sit at a desk. That's the cool thing about this. You can make a hopscotch game. You can pull a number out of a feely bag, or have them find a number that you prompt them to find, and then they can find that tile and do hopscotch on that tile, or they can put things inside. It can be, a lot of fun. You know, grab some stuffed animals and add them up inside of these, the bigger, large foam tiles. I've had some families that say that they are working on making their own, which you can do too. Cardboard boxes, Amazon deliveries, just cut those shapes out and make them at home. So there's lots of stuff you can do to reinforce these concepts in a fun and playful way. So kind of segueing from that, it's really important to be fun and playful. We're going to get a lot more into, with this empowerment series, we're going to talk a lot about universal design for learning, which is something that's imperative for our kiddos' learning experience. Basically, having an ability to shake things up and differentiate the way we engage our students, the way that we instruct our students, and the way we get their understanding, right? So the way they're able to express their understanding. When we shake that up and we differentiate it according to their strengths, then we're going to really be able to gain a better understanding of what our kiddos know. We all know that our kiddos aren't, you know, the best at sitting down and taking a standardized, you know, assessment, right? And a lot of times IEP teams don't have as much of an understanding about our kiddos' abilities because everything has that standardized approach. But when we really start thinking outside of the box and we get creative with our instruction and we make it fun for our learners and meaningful for our learners, and we're pulling things from that motivate them and that engage them and that are from real life and that mean something to them, that's when we're really going to start seeing our kiddos get excited to learn. And they're going to start building that confidence. With NUMICON, as they're watching themselves problem solve, when they're putting tiles together and then self-correcting, they're building confidence. They can see like, oh no, 7, let's see, 5 and 4 doesn't make 10, right? But we don't have to tell them that. They can look and then they have an opportunity to self-correct. And when they're doing that, then they are building their own self-confidence, their own self-efficacy, and they are persisting through what otherwise can be really frustrating and abstract concepts and work, if you will. If you are getting homework, and I'm assuming you are, hopefully modified for your learners, but if you are receiving homework from your education teams, try to incorporate NUMICON into that learning as well. Try not to separate the two. So if you have a worksheet, you know, take a couple of those problems and pull out the NUMICON kit. We don't want our kiddos to think that that work is what they do at school or for this particular subject or environment, and that NUMICON is something they do at home for this particular thing. We want them to intermesh because we want our kiddos to generalize the skills. So they want to know that we want them to know that they can take the skills they've learned with NUMICON and apply it to any any math problem or challenge that they're facing. So if you need more ideas about how to do that or how to modify your kiddos' work, we are going to definitely cover modifications in an upcoming Teach series or tutorial. So we are going to get a little bit more into that, but I'm always happy to help with finding some creative ways to modify your instruction or your work to meet the learning profile of your kiddos. Being creative and flexible is is a really important piece to this. I think you noticed when I showed you Alexander, he's counting, but he's at a piano, and that's because that's where he wants to learn math. So I don't make him sit at a desk. We go to the piano and he requests numbers using sign or his writing. And then he adds those numbers together. He puts the crayons inside the holes. So we're reinforcing with the crayons in that putty. So he's getting that sensory feedback. And then he's taking the crayons out and he's putting them on the piano keys because he loves music. And he loves to color code the crayons. So now he's putting them on the piano keys. So we're continuing to work on one-to-one correspondence. He gets to tap the piano. He gets a little feedback. He loves making music. When he completes a problem, we do a fun music thing together and just pretend like we're just in a band real quick. And then he wants more. And then we're motivated to do another problem. And so thinking creatively about what motivates your kiddo and how you can engage with them in those ways that are meaningful for them. I'm a musician. We've got a lot of instruments around the house. And so, you know, you can have your kiddo count strings if they're if they're motivated by music, a lot of our kiddos love music and movement and dance and acting. So we can count the strings. How many are there? Give them a choice, 3 or 4. They can choose 4. That's right. And then they can play a song with you. So it doesn't have to be so rigid. You can think of creative ways that are fun for you as well. Because who really, how many of us really actually like sitting down and forcing our kiddos to do homework at a table the whole time? You can really embed learning into lots of different experiences while you're having fun with your kiddo. I'll show you an example of my buddy Will. He loves gross motor play, and he loves playing with balls and rolling balls. So in order to get him engaged and motivated to work on addition, we've created a game called Number Bowling. So I'll show you what that looks like. I was at his house, and we just found a piece of wood. It looks like an old IKEA desktop or something. And I used putty to hold the NUMICON numbers up, and he got a ball, so we made ourselves a little number bowling alley. I'll show you an example. What did you?
Got 2.
Yeah. So here he rolled the ball, and he got 3 the first time and then 2 the next time. So we put it on the whiteboard, and then he can reinforce it. Sometimes he'll have goldfish with that, so he can put goldfish in the actual little holes to come up with his answer, or we'll put it on putty to come up with the answer, and then we can put those 2 together and check it. So that's just another example of just getting creative based on that learner's strengths and motivators. And that keeps him engaged. He gets to bowl and do math at the same time. So that's just an example of that. Okay. So, try to keep it fun. Remember, patience is a necessity. And I know we're all losing ours a little bit more lately because we all are sheltered in place, trying not to pull our hair out. And so if it doesn't seem like fun, or if you feel like you're pushing your kiddo at that time, then leave it alone. We want to make sure that we're setting our students up for success by being flexible, by making them feel like it's their idea, that they want to play this game, and finding creative ways. Help them participate with you to help you find creative ways to use those NUMICON tiles. Whether you're just jump outside, how many jumps do you want to do on the trampoline? And they could pull out a number from the feely bag, and then you can count that many jumps. One thing I always use is I bought a little server's apron, and I put that around my waist, and I keep markers, flashcards, NUMICON tiles, a sand timer to help, to help with transitions. And I keep those things on me because some of our kiddos like to elope, and instead of, I just want to make sure that my hands are free. But what this means is I'm now mobile, and I can take NUMICON anywhere, whether we're at the grocery store, getting items, whether we're outside in the backyard playing. I've always got it with me, and I'm always looking for opportunities to learn. For my kiddo to learn. So you want to we talked about reducing cognitive demands. If you're working on math, you don't have to make them write the numbers, right? Unless that's something they want to do. Always provide a choice. Do you want to write your number, or do you want to stick it? Or do you want to type it? Giving them that option empowers them with choice, but also helps diffuse any potential power struggles, because again, handwriting is a fine motor challenge for a lot of our kiddos, which can lead to frustration. And the goal is not a handwriting goal, it's a math goal. So we just want to make sure that the demands are focused on that particular goal. And then have fun. I think that I made that part clear for sure. NUMICON's a lot of fun. And again, when you have something that's so engaging, motivating, that you can use across environments, and that's also evidence-based, you kind of can't go wrong. I haven't found anything about it that I dislike, and it's always worth a try. We have loaned out all of our NUMICON kits, unfortunately, so we don't have any currently available to check out. That being said, I was able to find kits that are currently available, home kits. They are from the UK, so it's going to take a little bit of time to get them to you. Generally, Amazon, Walmart, the book depository, they tend to have stock, whether it's full kits or just pieces like the tiles or whiteboards, etc. Right now, I'm seeing a lot of them are out of stock, but you can still purchase those home kits at Abe Books and ABC School Supplies. So again, with that, I'm going to wrap up. Nancy, do we have any more questions that might be relevant for this?
Yeah, I would just have one question that just came in, Elizabeth, and that's that's about if school doesn't use NUMICON, but you use it at home, do the kiddos get confused?
So I would encourage, if you're using, this is a great time to test it, right? And as parents, it's important that if there's something that's working for your child, especially since we know math is such a tough subject to conquer. And I don't know how many parents that say, oh, I'm pulling my hair out with math and my kiddo's not reaching these math goals, and it's so frustrating. Now that we've got time to try this stuff out at home, if it's working, if you're seeing progress, if your kiddo is motivated and engaged with it, then as a parent, I would definitely recommend that you advocate bringing NUMICON into the school. And I've got families who have purchased kits for the school. I've got schools who have purchased NUMICON kits. I've actually done on-site trainings at school with NUMICON. A lot of teachers don't know anything about it and are actually really excited once they understand what it is, that it's not a curriculum, it's just simply another manipulative that's available in the classroom. And so if it is working for you, I would encourage you to connect with the team and see how you guys can work together to bring NUMICON into, whether it's that specialized instruction, if your kiddo's being pulled out, or even better, get a couple of 100 whiteboards that I brought up and NUMICON tiles, and look for ways that your kiddo can engage with his typical peers in that classroom setting. If your kiddo's in a general education placement setting, NUMICON is an awesome inclusion tool. It's a great small group tool. You can have your kiddo teach his peers, right? And engage with his peers. So it's a wonderful social opportunity for your kiddo to make connections with his peers. But it's just a great manipulative to use. So I wouldn't be timid about having a conversation with your school about it, because like I said, a lot of teachers still haven't really, it's not the most well-known approach out there. And a lot of teachers just simply haven't heard of it, but would be very willing to understand more and even bring it into the classroom, especially if your kiddo is making progress with this. It's important that you advocate that you try it out.
Yeah, and this is Nancy LaBelle. We do have certain kits normally for loan out to teachers. They're actually school kits, and so normally we would have those available, and so that they could try them out in the classroom. Unfortunately, what we've done, not unfortunately, it's actually fortunately, what we've done is we've lent everything out to our families, including the school kits, to work at home. So we try, over the years, we've actually been using NUMICON for many years, and over the years we've actually put these kits in schools, and we've had teachers try them with their kids, and they found them to be so successful that they've gone off and bought their own. Yes. So it's a matter of, like Elizabeth said, speak up, let them know that something is working at home. It's very important that you tell your teaching team what works for your child, because you know best.
Yes, exactly. Couldn't have said it better. Any other questions, Nancy?
There's just more questions about where to buy, how to buy, I can't buy. And right now I would say I'm sure all of you realize that all school type things and things you do at home are all running out, because everybody tried to grab this stuff up for the teaching at home scenario. Elizabeth will send out some more information about where to buy, and possibly those places that she just talked about.
Yeah,
maybe
I
we
did
can.
see, again, I did some research because I wanted to make sure we were up to date on where. And those, the ABE books and ABC School Supplies were the two sites that I found did currently have stock.
Yeah, she said ABC, some Larkin, it was saying ABC won't ship to California.
Oh, good to know.
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of I think there's a lot of unusual things going out on right now for inventory and shipment and things. So this is not a normal time. I many when we started buying NUMICON and through grants, we actually asked people for grants to buy these kits, and when we got them, we had no problem buying kits after kit after kit. Now it's just a very unusual time. I would say look for boards, look for whiteboards, like Elizabeth said, look for the pieces, the NUMICON tiles, have at least those things going on in your house, and then use your creativity. And Elizabeth gave you a lot of those great examples.
Okay, folks, thank you, Nancy, for that. Again, we really appreciate you guys taking time after, you know, a long week and being sheltered in and working on being homeschool teachers now. For some of you, wearing a new hat. We're here to support you. Again, feel free to email me if you have any specific questions regarding your kiddo, what you're trying to work on at home, IEPs, all of that stuff. I'm always happy to help. And on Monday, we'll be sending out an email about our next Teach Empowerment series, our next presentation. And if it sounds like something that applies to what you're working on at home, please feel free to join us. We'll be here for you through all of this. We're all in it together, and we're here like we always have been to help support you guys and empower you with all of the things you need to foster success for your kiddo. Okay, thank you guys very much, and let me know if you have questions, and otherwise I hope to see you next Friday. Thanks for joining.